It's the show the establishment warned you about.
That's right. It's the Dr. Tommy Show. Glad you're here joining us. This is broadcasting live from the free state of Florida from Echelon Health Studios. I am your host, Dr. Tommy, and today we're going to talk about some diversity in med school. And there was a problem recently on Capitol Hill with the CDC former director trying to convince Senator Rand Paul that vaccines at birth were a good idea. And then also wanted to talk about some of the media response to Charlie Kirk, and then a little bit about Robert Redford, who passed away. So, diversity in med school. Recently, there was this. Came from Medscape, which is like one of these things that doctors read. Some doctors read, I guess, and it's about the diversity in med school acceptance dips following Supreme Court ruling. So as you remember, there was a Supreme Court ruling in 2023 ending race-based admissions. And that was brought by a group, I believe it was in California, that was of Asian persuasion, who basically argued that it's racist or it's illegal to use racist beliefs about people and use those to determine who gets to go to medical school. And so this article laments really, that acceptance rates to medical schools have dipped among those who are not white or Asian. It says, while acceptance rates grew from 2019 to 2023 among whites, 40.37% versus 47.47%, and Asians, 38.26 versus 45.19, they fell among racial groups that are considered underrepresented in medicine. Yale School of Medicine professor Chaudhry and colleagues reported. So they wrote this article, and they're saying that basically the Supreme Court has made it to where the schools are, in their mind, less diverse. And when they say less diverse, they mean of our underrepresented minorities, because that's the kind of thing that we talk about when we talk about diversity of skin color. And so it brings to mind a question: how many of you out there have a doctor who is your same skin color? And if you do have a doctor who is your skin color, how many of you are glad that your doctor is that same skin color? And how many of you have a doctor who is not that same skin color, who maybe do not enjoy that doctor and would like to change it? So that's something to think about when you're thinking about the way that we go about viewing admissions as determined by this group here called, this Dr. Chaudhry and his colleagues. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. And then I brought to mind this thing with Walter Williams. And Walter Williams is a preeminent thinker on things like this, and he's a preeminent thinker on affirmative action. And here's what he had to say about quotas and races and things of that nature.
And the tragedy of it is that most black people do not know this. And
they don't know what?
They don't know that the kids are having a fraudulent education. Okay. And then when these kids go to college, they go to college under affirmative action, and they're getting in on terms other than other people. And so most kids, black kids, they don't graduate.
So you're against affirmative action?
Well, I'm against making choices by race.
Yeah. Now,
so that's an unpopular opinion amongst the intelligentsia, particularly those who are of the persuasion that you should have diversity by skin color alone. And Dr. Williams makes a great point here. He says, it talked about the failure of the school systems, and these students who are getting in are not prepared for school. And when they get in, they are getting under false pretenses, meaning that they were thought to have these educational backgrounds that were commiserate with other people. But a lot of times they don't have these. And then you make this assumption that race has anything to do with how you're going to be expected to do in college. So this is a little bit more about what he feels about race.
Except in marriage, I discriminate that way.
Now, So let me ask you. I don't want to focus too much, especially not exclusively.
So you can discriminate. It's okay to discriminate some things. Discrimination simply means to determine one thing from another. So in medicine, there's something called 2-point discrimination, where you can determine if someone can feel something that's different than another thing, and that's 2-point discrimination. Discrimination isn't necessarily a bad thing. Discrimination, when we talk about it, usually is say negative discrimination, or using things that are fairly cosmetic to determine whether or not someone is maybe smart or qualified, or if they belong in medical school. So using, as Dr. Williams says here, discrimination in a negative way is probably what these people are thinking that you're doing when you select people. Do not select people based on their race, because you're saying, well, we're just not letting them in because we weren't letting them in because if affirmative action says we can let them in if they're black or Hispanic or otherwise underrepresented minorities, and we're making some assumptions based on their skin color. And that in and of itself is racist, to assume that people based on their skin color have either positive qualities or negative qualities, and particularly if they're negative qualities, I think it's racist. Rand Paul has been on Capitol Hill recently, and he had this interaction with a former CDC. She was a former CDC director, and I just want to play a little bit of what he had to say to her. And it's kind of interesting because it dovetails on something that I talked about a couple weeks ago.
The childhood routine. Well, we should. There is no medical reason. What is the medical reason to give a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn whose mom has no hepatitis?
So none of the...
Great question. So what is the reason for giving a newborn hepatitis B vaccine if her mother has no hepatitis? Let's hear what the answer is.
Discussion points that you just brought up, wherever it...
That's changing the childhood schedule.
Will you allow her to answer the question?
Regular order. You have your time, Bernie. I got mine. Look, this is the debate over changing the childhood schedule. The hepatitis B vaccine on the schedule is given to newborns. What is the medical, scientific reason and proof for giving a newborn a hepatitis B vaccine if the mom is Hep B negative?
I want to go back.
Silence, nothing. And I wanted to give credit. This is from Breitbart, and this is Sabine Hazan, MD. And prior to that we were listening to the Heritage Foundation YouTube site. I don't want to try to steal anybody's thunder, but anyway, let's hear what she has to say again.
To the assertion associated.
What is the medical reason for giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn? See, everybody's like blithely going along. We can't change the childhood. You're somehow terrible if you want to change the childhood. We should be discussing what is the childhood vaccine schedule, and the burden should be on you. You want to make all the kids take this? The burden is upon you and the people you wouldn't fire to prove to us that we need to give our 6-month-old a COVID vaccine and that we need to give our 1-day-old a hepatitis B vaccine. That's what the debate ought to be about, not whether all vaccines are good or whether we live in Alice in Wonderland.
So that's pretty much what I've been saying is, why can't we just wait a little bit for this hepatitis B vaccine? And why is it that they have to get it right when they're born? And here goes. This is something from. Let's see here. I keep having to restart this here. So this is from, so this is Susan Monera's, the CDC's last permanent director, and Dr. Heber Horry, the CDC's chief medical officer, before she resigned following Monera's termination, said in an appearance on Capitol Hill Wednesday, they have not seen data that supports changing the schedule. And listen, this is what this lady says. Dr. Horry, I would want to keep them at birth. I think there's a lot of moms that don't even know they have hepatitis and can transmit it to their baby. Even if a mom is hepatitis B negative, we don't know what their home situation is. I mean, that's I don't know. That's pretty weak evidence for saying that we have to have vaccinations, mass vaccinations across the country, mandatory mass vaccinations across the country, or if not mandatory, highly recommended, and then therefore kind of quasi-mandatory for hepatitis B for a child. And you can get hepatitis B from blood. And they say, well, there's I looked up an article here from the CDC. It said in 2021, 0.5% of births resulted in a child getting hepatitis B. Now, that sounds like an incredibly large amount to me. They said the number was like 17,000 or something like that. I didn't look it up because I don't know. But let's take it at its face value. So we're going to mass vaccinate every child because of something that happened to 0.5% of a population. And that population included people who were born in the United States and people who are not born in the United States. And I did not look it up, but I assume that means people who are probably not even citizens of the United States. So we're going to make a mass vaccination schedule based upon some data that says that a very, very tiny amount of people, which I don't know if that's, like I said, it sounds like a high amount, 0.5%. But even if we took it that, so 99.5% did not have this. And yet we're supposed to do a mass vaccination for that. And like I talked about a couple weeks ago, by the time you get this vaccine, a lot of times you have to get boosters anyway. I got a vaccine when I was 2001, and by the time I got a residency in 2006, my immunity for hepatitis B had already worn off, so I had to get it again. So anyway, that's a little update there on the vaccination front. Let's see here what we got here. So Kid Rock has been was on what's this guy's name? Charlie Waters, I think is his name, on Fox News, and he was talking to him about Charlie Kirk and the media's reaction to Charlie Kirk, and I just wanted to play a little bit of that.
I've said it and I'll say it again because I think it needs to be echoed until they get it through their fat skulls. The mainstream media is frickin' public enemy number one right now. Just the clips you just ran of these people from the New York Times and these other nut.
Oh, I want to tell you too, if there's any children around, earmuffs, because there's some not safe for work language here coming up.
Houses they call media establishments. It's absolutely freaking ridiculous. I mean, and then they say to, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, by the way, his wife, kids, that, he's inciting this, he's inciting that. I'm someone who understands better than anyone as being a very vocal Trump supporter from day one. They've called me a racist Nazi for years now. I mean, go look up a few facts about my life, my children, where everything. But other people start to echo this. Just people who write dumb articles who think, I'm trash and I hate my music, and they say he's just a racist Nazi. And, this starts to build and build and build. So you get these nut house kids who are doing nothing but playing video games, watching these occult movies that are all over our streaming services, that won't go outside to play any sports or anything. And, then they think they're going to do something good. I'm going to go kill a Nazi.
So that's a perfect example of what happens when these people do consume this vitriol 24 hours a day, and then they turn on to late night, and then they see somebody like Jimmy Kimmel talking about how the assassin was a right-winger and blah, blah, blah. So, Kid Rock's right here is that this we call it a cacophony of negativity and lies and basically bad vibes that are given out by the media. It has its effect, and it does have its effect on people who are potentially susceptible, like potentially this killer of Charlie Kirk. Some things are coming out about him now that show that he's a member of the online furry community and this, that, and the other. Who knows? But the point of it is that, Kid Rock's right, is there's a lot of this that is made worse by the media. And the media really has in my lifetime, become, like he says, public enemy number one. And when I say that, I mean public enemy number one in terms of the way that they go about dividing people. I guess that's the best way to do it. So it really started under Barack Obama, honestly. 2008 was supposed to be the great healing. The oceans were going to rise or not rise. They were going to stop rising, and, it was going to be, everything was going to be great. And then we had the first black president and this, that, and the other. And actually, since 2008 is basically when you can start looking and seeing this great divide, this great, it started along race and other things like that. But since then, the media has really gone full-throated in their efforts to divide our country, and along with certain members of the political establishment, have done their best to divide our country. And, when you do this, constantly talk about people and call them racists and Nazis, we see what happened. Unfortunately. And Jimmy Kimmel's been fired, so he's apparently been let go by ABC. This is something that I thought maybe was related to, it was in the works already, and this is just a way for them to jump off and say, well, look, it's not our fault. We're not canceling this guy. He's being canceled because of he said bad things, not because he's unsuccessful. And what it is he's in the last year of his contract apparently, and now his contract is not being renewed, and he's being pulled off the air. But Jimmy Kimmel, I was watching these things earlier of Johnny Carson, and then you have Jimmy Kimmel. And can you imagine Johnny Carson ever saying the things that people like Jimmy Kimmel and the other Jimmy and the other guy that got canceled, Colbert? Can you imagine? They would not have been on the air for very long, and that's the reason these guys, they actually killed the whole show. That whole type of show. There's no more, after these guys are gone, there's going to be no more late night TV, and they are the ones that killed it. I mean, imagine being the one that killed a something as long standing as late night television talk shows. I mean, going back from the golden age of television to now, and then they were the ones to put the nail in the coffin just from their nastiness and their one-sidedness and the way that I never watched them, honestly, but I've seen clips, and then when you see them, they just go from nonstop from the beginning to the end. It's like a political show. No one wants to see that. Some people want to see that, I guess, but most people don't want to see that. What else we got? This is kind of interesting. This is from Ace of Spades blog, and this is a gentleman who is talking about, his name is Matt Gutman on ABC, and he's talking about the text messages from this Tyler killer to his lover.
Discriminating, and yet on the other hand so touching, right? With the suspect reaching out to his roommate, who is allegedly his boyfriend, who we understand, identified as male at birth, now identifies as female, and the terminology he used. He was trying to protect him. He kept calling him my love. My reason for doing this is to protect you, but also asking him to delete the messages and not speak to law enforcement. So there's this heart.
So that brings to mind two things. One of them is this classic scene from Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. I'll play that here.
Death business. I'm sorry.
I don't know, Leon. I don't know what I'm...
This is the one that has the earmuffs. The other one was fine. This one's the earmuffs. So earmuffs, if you have children around, watch out. Not safe for work.
I'm getting here with that shit. What am I supposed to say to that shit? This is going on, and you're giving me that shit.
I'm sorry.
You know what's happening with me. You know that. You know the pressures I've been having, right? I got all these pressures, and you know about it. You're in that hospital there with all them tubes coming out. You want that fucking operation, right? You're giving me that shit. Everybody's giving me shit. Everybody needs money. You know what I mean? So, you needed money, I got your money. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't ask you to go and rob a bank.
No, I know you didn't ask me. Look, I want to, I'm not putting this on anybody. Nothing on nobody. I did this on my own. You see, all on my own I did it. But I just want you to know something. I want you to know that I'm getting out of here.
So Dog Day Afternoon, if you've not seen it, is a movie, 1975, and it was with Al Pacino playing this guy named Sonny, and it also had John Cassell in there as his dim-witted accomplice who they rob a bank. And initially when they rob a bank, they just appear like bumbling bank robbers. But as you go on throughout the movie, you find out that it was Al Pacino was robbing this bank to get money for his boyfriend, who is named Leon, who he later dictates a letter to him, and he says, "To my lovely wife, Leon." But anyway, it brings to mind this thing that was going on between this shooter and his boyfriend. And so Dog Day Afternoon, those Sonny robs the bank, and then it just goes downhill from there. That was in 1975. Sidney Lumet was the director of that movie. It was a great movie. Al Pacino at that point was, I think he had just finished the second Godfather, so he was at the height of his career. He was coming off of The Godfather Part 2, which he was nominated for an Oscar, and I don't think he won. He did not win an Oscar, actually, until he did Scent of a Woman, which was kind of seen as a makeup call, I think, for previous roles. And because he had never gotten an Oscar, he never got an Oscar win for either of his Michael Corleone roles. Prior to that point, there was only 2 before Son of a Woman, because Part 3 came out afterwards. But he was, and then he also didn't get one for Scarface. And so I think this was like a makeup call, and they said, well, we'll give him an Oscar for Son of a Woman. And Son of a Woman wasn't a bad movie. I've seen it once. I can tell movies that are great movies versus movies that are good movies or okay movies is because I've only seen them once. And I've only seen Dog Day Afternoon. I've only seen Son of a Woman once. And I saw, and that was the birth of the hoo-ah Al Pacino. After that, I think Al Pacino basically became hoo-ah Al Pacino. There was no more regular Al Pacino after that. After after Son of a Woman, I think he was basically hoo-ah. And that and Sea of Love came around the same time. That Sea of Love was a good movie. But Dog Day Afternoon was a good movie, and I recommend it highly. But back to the hoo-ah character. After that, even the Michael Corleone character in Part 3 of The Godfather was not... to me, it doesn't even seem like the same character, honestly. When I watch it, I have a hard time thinking that this is Michael Corleone, because the character is kind of like a Michael Corleone as a hoo-ah Al Pacino of the late 80s, early 90s. And he does not seem at all like the Al Pacino from earlier, the reserved, kind of reluctant, and then also quietly vicious character that he was in the first 2 Godfathers. But in Godfather Part 3, I don't know. He was charismatic. The original Michael Corleone was never charismatic. It did not seem like Michael Corleone. And that's why I've seen Godfather Part 3 more than once. But I don't call it more than a good movie. So that fails that distinction there. But speaking of people in movies, Robert Redford, unfortunately, has passed away. Robert Redford was, I think he was 87 years old, or 89 maybe. And so I wanted to play this clip. This is from YouTube. Guy's name is David Nayer. He's got 652 subscribers, so I want to give him credit. But he has this clip on YouTube of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And if you can't see this, if you're listening, this is the scene where Strother Martin has tried to recruit Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to be payroll guards, and they are going to potentially be hired. And Strother Martin is this guy who goes to get payroll from La Paz in Bolivia and bring it back to the town where he lives. And he's asking the Sundance Kid, "Are you any good?"
Can you shoot your piece and shoot?
He misses that shot. He threw down something. He misses it. If you can't see this, Butch Cassidy can't believe it, and Strother Martin walks off.
Move. What the hell you mean move?
I'm better when I move.
Yeah.
Well, since that's the end of the clip, we'll just end that right there. But basically, it goes, well, since you are the only applicants and you're exactly what I'm looking for, you're hired. And he hires them. But anyway, so Sundance has to move in order to shoot accurately. And I've noticed that too. If I'm shooting something like out in the yard or whatever, if I shoot and I feel like if I aim too long, then I'm more likely to miss. If I pick up the gun and just aim, then I'm more likely to hit it with the BB gun. But if I aim too long, then I'm more likely to miss. That movie was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That movie had Paul Newman and Robert Redford in it for the first time, and those guys were basically two of the biggest guys. You know, it would be like today if Tom Cruise was to make a movie with hell, I don't even know who else is a big actor now. There's so few movie stars now, but that was 1969. So Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but Paul Newman and Robert Redford at the time were really big draws. And then it also had Strother Martin. So Strother Martin, if you remember, if you've seen Cool Hand Luke, was the boss in Cool Hand Luke. And so he was the one that said, what we've got here is a failure to communicate. So that was Strother Martin. And Strother Martin in this movie plays the guy who is he needs to get payroll. Anyway, he has a short role, but it's kind of like a cameo almost, but he's got a good role. Let's see what else we got here. So, well, that's all we got for today. This is Dr. Tommy Show. Go online to drtommy.com/podcast, and you can join us live on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.